All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. This is Tyler,
And this is Philip.
and today we are going to do a two-part series on something that I was very passionate about in 2020, which is home defense. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So, like I said, it's going to be a two-part series. Today, part one is going to be all about intro into home defense, and part two, we're going to go into depth of like what our personal home defense guns are and why we chose it. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and just jump right into it. So I guess
Okay, whoa,
for
whoa, whoa, whoa,
go
whoa,
for
whoa,
it.
whoa.
What
You're making an assumption here that I use a firearm for home defense, Tyler. What if I use a baseball bat?
you can do whatever you want, Phil. If you want to use a baseball bat, then I can still be right.
All right, baseball bat it is.
Because yeah, Phil, I guess spoiler alerts. Is that what you use then? Is that what you use in Michigan?
A baseball bat?
Yeah.
No, I have a concealed carry dog.
Perfect. I mean, the crazy thing is like dogs actually do very well for home defense.
Well, they're a deterrent for sure.
Exactly.
But I've got three fluffy deterrents.
Oh, yes, you do, because I just watched all three of them, so I felt very safe, even though I already live in a very safe neighborhood.
I know they're good alert animals, but anyway, I digress, and I don't want to derail the conversation. So, go ahead and let's keep going.
So, why home defense, Phil? Why? I mean, what got you into home defense?
Well, there's a whole adage of a house is a man's castle,
Yes, I mean
right?
that's where castle doctrine comes from.
Right.
It's that
Yeah,
idea.
that's a good point. And there is a necessity for a family or an individual to feel safe within their home, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you think of like where's the one place everybody wants to go when they're upset, something's happened in life that's difficult, or you've traveled for a long period of time and you're tired and you always want to go home.
One
You
hundred
want to,
percent.
and one of the reasons is because your house is safe, right?
Yes.
I've got kiddos and I've got a spouse, and they also like look at our house being a safe spot, right? Like a true safe space, as it were, versus like a fake one at a college or whatever.
Yeah, with your
So,
emotional support dog.
but yeah, plural dogs. So it's important, I think, especially as a protector, that we are able to keep that space safe, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we are in a day and age where home break-ins and assaults inside of the home are a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's fairly rare, comparatively to other crimes. And like again, I live in a fairly safe neighborhood. Uh, we've got some like car break-ins at night, some petty theft. Those kind of things are primary issues we deal with. However, and again, this is kind of a lightning strike type story. There was a pretty gruesome murder that was in our neighborhood prior to us moving here, so it was probably like
Really?
9
Wow.
years 9 years ago. It was an elderly lady, or sorry, an elderly gentleman and his wife were both murdered, and I guess it was really pretty bad.
Wow.
So as a result, we see a lot of security systems in the neighborhood and stuff like that too. So ultimately, home defense is a layered approach. Today we're talking about the like final a line of defense when it comes to home defense, and that would be lethal home defense, right? So again, just kind of reiterating and rounding out my thought there is that you never know what someone is going to bring into your house, so you should have at least equal force or
Mm-hmm.
greater if they're in your house. So
Mm-hmm.
if they come they're in my house with a knife or a baseball bat and they're there, then they're not supposed to be there, right? So it is up to me to be able to defend my house.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that comes into, maybe we're going to talk about this too, but my possessions are not worth someone's life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if they're trying to assault me, that's a whole nother story, or somebody in my family,
Of
right?
course.
But we don't have a right to or a duty to retreat in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Some states do. So I mean, if somebody shows up in your house and they're in your house, you could end their life if you choose to. if
Yeah,
they're not supposed to be there. But in the end of the day, that is truly our last line of defense is the lethal option.
it is, and it's also like you mentioned. It's also understanding. Well, first of all, your own personal convictions and morals, and your beliefs, and two, where you live and what are the laws there. Just like Phil mentioned, here in Michigan, we're castle doctrine, but we do not have a duty to retreat. However, we are not going to take a life because someone's trying to steal my TV.
Right.
Like that, my TV's not worth it,
Right.
and that's where I know some people have had that misconception of like, yeah, someone breaks into my home, I can do it, I can take them down. I'm like, no, you can't. If you are afraid for your life or for the life of those around you or for bodily injury or sexual harm, then yes, then yes, you can. But if it's because they're there to take your TV, dude, just let them take your TV, let them take your wallet. That's it's not worth it. I just I've never personally taken a life, and I hope I never have to. But I just think of the trauma that comes with that. I know
Right.
I've spoken to veterans still who still deal with that PTSD, to still deal with that trauma, um that pain, that mental anguish because they took a life. And
Yeah,
they're
it's bad.
war. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and it's bad enough that you're dealing with the trauma of somebody being in your house to begin with.
yeah, no kidding.
Right. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of jokes around the firearms community of like, the whole adage of, oh, I hear a bump in the night. And then the gun owners, with all the guns on the wall, super excited because that means he can go shoot somebody. And that's obviously the wrong take in this
Of course.
situation.
Mhm.
That being said, if somebody is in your house to just steal, there's no guarantee that they're not going to do anything beyond that.
Mhm.
Especially if you are a single, like smaller individual, whether that's a woman, God forbid, a teenager alone at night with parents gone or something like that, um, or like a small, male, right?
Yeah.
Like you do run the risk of escalation. Obviously, you can barricade yourself, call the cops, and
Mhm.
then if they try to get in at that point, or like kind of aggressive, like like gestures towards you, or like advances towards you,
Well,
then yes. But not
so speaking when it comes to home invasions and break-ins, I can't remember the stats itself, but the majority of them happen when people aren't home.
right.
If someone is breaking into your home at night, they are purposely going for you. They are targeting you.
Or
Unless they
yeah,
are absolute psychopaths or sociopaths who are doing this for fun.
or
But
they're strung out on some kind of drug,
exactly,
which
yeah.
actually happens quite frequently. Somebody mistakes
Mhm.
one house for theirs, or they're strung out and they're already a criminal to begin with, and they're like, well, I'm gonna go break into a house, and then they don't like check to see if anybody's home because they're out of their
Mhm.
mind already anyway.
Yeah, but the majority of it's but yes, but typically the majority of the time it's because they do it during the day because once again, criminals are cowards and they want the path of least resistance. So, and I'm surprised, Phil, how we are in the 20s of our episode of acceptable accuracy, and we have not done an episode on home defense yet.
Well, okay, so to be honest, I think a lot of it was the practicing of doing podcasts in
That's
advance
fair.
because
Yeah,
this is a very, I know this is for you especially, is very close to your heart.
it is.
So we want to make sure that we do it right, and I think we're at that point where we can do it right.
I mean, I spoke about this in our intro. I guess the to give people a refresher, the whole reason why I got into firearms is because of the 2020 riots. I remember Grand Rapids being on fire. I didn't see it first. I didn't see it actually happen, but I remember showing up the next day on Sunday afternoon after church where the city and the police were all saying, "Do not come. We will take care of it." But the city of Grand Rapids chose to come together and clean up the city. And I remember seeing the aftermaths of police cars that were literally blown up,
Yeah.
stores ransacked, boarded up because people just broke in and just stole things. And I just thought to myself, I am 10 minutes south of the city. At the time, I was engaged. Like, what's going to happen when I'm married and someone tries to break into my home? How can I protect my wife? How can I protect myself? And I thought to myself, okay, I'm a guy from Hawaii who went to California for college and now I'm in Michigan. I think it's time to learn more about guns. And I dove right in and I got went straight to home defense. And of course, being what and also for and typically when people think home defense guns, I think when it comes to a novice, so what is the first thing that people get? What do you think, Philip?
Bolt action rifle from 1918.
Not everyone is you, Philip.
No, yeah, I think typically what people think about is a shotgun,
I
right?
agree. Hmm.
There's this mystique around, maybe that's the wrong word, but there's this like legend or
Yeah,
mythology
I know what you're talking about.
around the shotgun that basically is like the go-to home defense weapon. Whether that's because the current president of the United States is like, what do you need a rifle for? Just get a double barrel shotgun. Like
And
so there's
shoot two warning shots in the air.
right. Now there is, okay, so shotguns, they literally can do everything. They just can't do like a specific thing really well, right? And there are definitely some failings when it comes to shotguns,
Hmm.
from a home defense perspective. I don't know if we're getting into that right now, so
Dude, I don't even
I'll
know.
kind
It's funny because
I'll
as we
kind of leave it
as we
there,
talked about this more, I kind of thought to myself, this could easily become a three-part series
right?
because we could do a whole episode on home defense, like a home defense system, because we could talk about alarms, we could talk about the
Yeah,
dogs, about location. Because I mean, we've done this before because we did a men's event at our church, a presentation about a whole home defense system, like fire prevention. So who knows? This might become a three-part. We'll see. Phil and I will
yeah,
talk more about this later. But
yep.
today is intro to home defense guns. That's really what today's episode's about. So I guess you're right on the money. So I guess let's go into guns. So I think typically when it comes to home defense guns, there are three different operating systems that you can use. It will be a pistol, a AR-15, and a shotgun. And I might even throw in their PCC now. I don't know yet, but I think, but overall, for most people, it'd be pistol, AR, and shotgun. Would you agree with that?
Well, you said operating systems, so I would toss in Windows 95 there.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
How about just Mac iOS, Sierra, or whatever we're on now? Actually,
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Pistol, some sort of semi-automatic rifle,
yeah.
right? I mean, I
Hmm.
guess if you're like an AK bro, that's cool too.
I guess.
A shotgun and then PCC, which is a rifle, but I think we're separating like your AR or your AK or your Brin or whatever from like that's a high powered rifle,
Hmm.
typically with an intermediate cartridge versus a PCC, which is going to be shooting a pistol cartridge.
Hmm. Exactly.
So,
So I mean,
yes,
we could
yeah.
talk about all four. I'm fine with talking about the four, but I guess when it comes to a home defense gun, there are a few things that I personally look into, and I think because once again, this is an intro. So let's just say you or me in 2020. I am new to guns. I barely know what I am doing, and so these are different things that I would like to look for in general, especially for a new person, and even now as a more experienced, more intermediate shooter. So first of all, accuracy of ease, right? So let's say once again I'm new and you have these four operating systems. Which is the easiest to be accurate with right away?
So you said accuracy of ease or ease of use. I guess
I
is that
guess
what you're?
ease of use.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I mean, we have another part where we're just talking about handling itself, but like, which is easiest to be accurate with right away?
So
Because
the
I would say those are two different things.
yeah, I so the general assumption is that shotgun is going to be more lenient towards accuracy
Which
because
I
most,
would say so. Yeah.
yeah, whether it's the media or television or whatever, there's this like assumption that when you're shooting a shotgun that you've got a massive pattern coming
Yeah.
out of
Pretty
it
much.
into that shotgun,
Yeah.
right? Where that close up, like if you're in a home defense situation, unless you're living in a mansion, honestly, you're not going to be printing that well.
Yeah.
And yet, yes, it will spread some,
Hmm.
so maybe there is this like there's a gentleman, Paul Hurl. He does a bunch of like YouTube videos on home defense stuff. Check his videos out. You can kind of see shotgun patterning at different distances,
Hmm.
because that's the big thing to understand too. Like, yes, the pattern on a shotgun is going to be larger than a pattern on a single bullet versus like a shotgun with buckshot or birdshot, right?
Hmm.
Controversial stance. Birdshot is a home defense round.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But the general consensus is that shotgun is going to be like more forgiving from an accuracy perspective.
Of course. And
Assuming
that,
you
yeah,
agree with that, or you
I
have
100
any?
no, I 100% agree. That's kind of the idea, which is why I believe most people, when they are new, they would lean towards a shotgun because of that. Well, they have that belief of, yeah, if I have my shotgun and I aim north, I'm shooting like everything that's north of me. When in
Yeah,
reality, nah, that's not true.
it's the whole adage of like, people are like, you can't hit the broadside of a barn, or they assume that like with a shotgun, that when you shoot at the broadside of a barn, you're hitting the entire barn. Well,
Hmm.
you're not. There is a
You're
pattern.
not. No, there's a pattern. There's a clear pattern.
Yep.
And once again, too, that's assuming that you have birdshot or buckshot. Because if you have a slug, then of course that's not the case. Because for those who listened to my solo episode of Acceptable Accuracy when I was in Guyana and I had a shotgun, I missed many times because they're all slugs. So I'm still annoyed with myself about that. I was so mad. But hey, it's okay. It wasn't my gun. That's my excuse, even though it's definitely the Indian and not the arrow, right? How it works?
Yes, it is,
So,
and it's just experience with that specific weapon system as well too. Even though it was the
mhm.
exact same weapon system that you own.
Yeah, that I've only shot like 5 times. It is hilarious because it was a Mossberg Maverick. I think I
Yeah.
have an '88. That one was like some different Mossberg Maverick model. It was an older
Oh,
one, but it
sure.
was essentially the exact same thing. Like I knew exactly all the controls were the same. The safety was there. Everything was the same. It did not have a beat though, so I could not aim very well. It was just a straight rail, which was hilarious to me. But so I would definitely say, yeah, like if someone who is new grabs a gun, the easiest that's able to shoot would be the shotgun. Like that's I would say that between a shotgun, a PCC, a a regular carbine, and a pistol.
Yeah, I would agree. And obviously, as we get into the conversation, you're gonna realize, well, shotguns have major failings. Um, so from like I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll leave it there. Yes, you're more likely to hit with a shotgun than anything else when you're shooting one round.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I guess, in your opinion, now what will be second?
Okay. This gets into some of the recoil management, some of the later items we're going to hit on, but PCC would be second because
Hmm.
you have that ability to have multiple points of contact. So we'll talk about that later too. But you have like your primary hand, secondary hand, and your shoulder, right?
And your
So
cheek.
and your cheek. That's a good point. So technically, 4 points of contact, right? Even
Hmm.
if you don't have a good like grip on the PCC, like and you're not don't have a great cheek weld, as long as you're in the shoulder, like that alone is going to give you a massive advantage, which is why the military issues rifles instead of like a pistol. Granted, obviously ballistics, but
Hmm.
they're just a lot easier to shoot than it
They
is
are.
with a pistol. And with a PCC, you're looking at a lot less recoil. They can be typically shorter, sometimes lighter weight. Again, going into some other items, but the the cartridge itself is also going to recoil less,
Hmm.
right, and be a lot quieter when inside of a building as well too. Still really loud, but
That's true. That was one consideration I did not talk about.
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
note it and we're
list.
gonna talk about it.
I do agree. That is something that we should definitely talk about, something to consider at least. And that's where number three is definitely a handgun, right? A pistol.
No, I would disagree. I think AR is gonna be
I know,
next, with
100%. I'm totally kidding, man.
yeah, or rifle, carbine next
Yes,
with
which
assault
I mean,
last.
I feel like, and that's kind of why, like, that's where, like, because with the PCC and just a regular carbine, like, there's definitely a lot of similarities there. There are definitely some other areas, other topics where it's like, yeah, others will be kind of different, but overall, I feel like there's enough of a difference between the two operating systems to where where we can justify another operating system, but there is a lot of similarities too. So I feel like a lot of times they are going to be very similar to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we've kind of already talked about this a little bit, recoil management, and what are your like if you were to order them, and I guess maybe you can speak to each one of them from a recoil management perspective
hmm
and explain what we mean by that.
I mean, recoil management. I think a lot of people, when they think of recoil management, it people like to think of it as trying to keep the gun as flat as possible and mitigating the recoil. When in reality, that's not what recoil management is. Recoil management, at least the way that my understanding is, after you shoot, getting your sights right back on your target as quick as possible. Now, if you're able to mitigate it, whether because I think of guys like the guys from Tier 1 Concealed. I see them shoot their pistols and it literally doesn't even look like their pistols move. I just don't get it. But they're just that talented. I'm not there, and I honestly don't think I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I will. But
Are
recoil
they
management, what's up?
are they shooting compensated at all?
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
No, they're not. It's literally just some of them are shooting just regular Glock 19s.
They're shooting powder puff rounds.
I have no idea. But it's just crazy. But I don't know. Maybe I'll send you some videos of it later so you can kind of see what I'm
Yeah.
talking. It's insane. Like Jared, he's the founder and CEO of Tier One Concealed, but it's just so cool. Hey, Tier One Concealed, sponsor us. I have like four of your holsters, so five of your holsters actually.
I have none.
But and so that's why, kind of going back to that, I'd say the best would be a carbine, up just a AR-15. Now I can't. It's hard for me because I'm not as, and maybe that's why it's a little harder for me to talk about the PCC operating system because I don't have one and I've only shot one a couple of times. So that's where for me maybe a PCC might be better, but I'd say definitely in that area it will probably be carbine, PCC, for a new shooter, probably shotgun then pistol.
Yeah, I would. Okay, so kind of, I would actually use that same order as well too. But going on what you're saying about the difference between a rifle
hmm
or a carbine versus a PCC, you are correct. Typically, because of the operating system in we'll use an AR as an example. I think for the rest of the episode we can kind of refute because ARs are hands down the most common like carbine rifle in the United States
Oh, not even a question.
because of the and is mostly direct impingement system that a AR-15 uses. It is significantly lighter recoiling, or less recoil than a PCC because most PCCs are traditionally direct blowback,
hmm
and as a result, they tend to be a little bit more violent when it comes to recoil. Now, it's not that much of a difference, and then especially for those of us who have enough shoulder to put behind it, you're really not going to be able to tell the difference. But I shot a lot of PCC in Steel Challenge,
hmm
and then when I would switch from that, and then we'd go practice for like a match that required me to use a
An
full
AR.
caliber like an AR,
hmm
I would notice how much softer shooting the AR was over the PCC.
hmm
There are PCCs that have like piston driven uppers. There's also the MP5, which has like a roller delayed system that I guess is just an absolute pleasure to shoot. I don't remember the last time I shot an MP5, so I can't recall. And it was probably before I really was paying attention to that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
I've never
so
shot one, so I don't even know.
yeah, so there are ways to definitely mitigate it because the full power cartridge of a AR-15 being 5.56 traditionally or a 300 blackout
Yeah,
is obviously a way more violent explosion because there's a lot more powder behind it and with a smaller projectile.
it's just moving so fast.
Yeah, and it's moving so fast, but again, because of the DI system, you're mitigating a lot of that recoil and creating actually a very soft shooting solution.
hmm
PCC again, direct blowback. It's not bad, but because of the ergonomics of the way that most PCCs are set up, they're very easy to manage. They're very similar to an AR-15.
hmm
And then again with shotgun, especially depending on the load that you're using, buckshot specifically is can be, especially for smaller framed individuals, can be very violent. Um,
Yes.
and I would encourage individuals who are smaller stature to really truly consider maybe not getting a shotgun for home defense, unless you're going
Hmm.
to use a lighter load like birdshot again, which we're going to get into, and some people will claim is not a defensive round, but I will say that it is. Um, but I was at a match
I
a
mean,
couple years
you do
ago.
conceal carry a 22 long rifle,
I
so
do conceal carry a 22 long rifle.
I'm
Yes.
totally kidding. By the way,
No, I
he
don't.
does not.
I know people that have
I
concealed
know.
carry in a bathing suit,
And you
concealed
know
carry
what?
a Derringer 22.
And you know what? End of the day, I would rather carry a 22 than have a rock. So I mean, it's better than nothing,
Or a baseball bat.
or a baseball bat. I would rather have a 22 than a baseball bat. I don't even care. So, so
Yeah.
yes, I would rather you use a. I mean, there are people who use less than lethal rounds. Like they have what, like those salt rounds now or whatever.
Yeah. That's an option.
So,
But
so that
really quick
yeah,
running out on the shotgun thing before I forget my train of thought on
yeah,
that.
go for it.
I was
Mhm.
at a match 2 years ago, and we've talked about before, I guess, Zombie Invitational. It's a 2-day match. First day is carbine pistol. Second day is shotgun pistol, and we got like maybe 5 stages deep out of I think 7, or maybe it was 4 stages deep out of 7 stages that day. And there was a woman who was there who was smaller framed, and it was nothing to do with her character or her toughness, but she was literally bawling by the end of the day because of all of the slugs and buckshot and even like
Of course,
birdshot that she was shooting out of it. And we're talking like at that point it was probably, I don't know, 40 to, yeah, about 40 rounds that at that point, maybe up to 50 rounds of shotgun. And
it's a lot. It
for
hurts.
me, yeah, for me, honestly, like I didn't even notice it until the day after when I was in front of the mirror with my shirt off and I had like a bruise on my shoulder. But
Hmm.
again, I probably weighed 100 pounds more than she did. I've got larger shoulders to be able to mitigate that. Um,
Hmm.
so again, with recoil, especially with smaller individuals, shotgun's not necessarily the way to go. And then last on the list, like you said, is pistol. And again, just because using a pistol is a lot more difficult to shoot accurately without a lot of experience,
Exactly.
because you only have 2 points of contact versus the four with a rifle or shotgun.
Exactly. And that's the thing though too, like how many times have you and I shot with either maybe newer shooters or not as trained shooters where like what's the first thing that I usually have to help people
Um,
with their pistols when they're shooting?
loading their gun.
Well, yes, that's definitely one thing.
I'm
Not
just kidding.
flagging us, but
Well, yeah, not flagging us. No,
yeah,
usually it has to do with like shooting accurately and holding the gun properly
it's
and
exactly.
squeezing the trigger properly.
It's getting their grip. Yeah, that's usually
Yep.
the first thing that I notice is people don't get nice and high enough. And of course, now you have the modern thumbs forward grip, just trying to cover as much real estate of your gun to where you're trying to mitigate as much recoil as possible. And that's why, once again, we're talking about intro to home defense, where
Hmm.
the context is a new shooter. Like, of course, now you have maybe more intermediate to advanced shooters. Like, any of these four operating systems will work just fine. It's just whatever you've trained with the most. But if you are someone who's new that's just gone to firearms, like it's not looking very good for pistol for home defense. Just saying, or
No,
shotguns.
for somebody new, definitely it's difficult. Now, the only argument that you could put against that, and this is kind of a weird thought, but it just popped in my head, was if let's say you wanted a pistol and you wanted to get better at it, you have a limited budget, so you can't just go out and buy like a PCC.
Hmm.
They do make chassis systems that
That's true.
have braces, or you could, I guess, SBR if you chose to, but you could buy a chassis system with a brace on it and use that like a PCC. It's
Hmm.
not going to be like, and it's a small package. So from a maneuverability perspective, um, like that's something to consider as well too.
We didn't even talk about maneuverability either.
I already have it underneath the miscellaneous last thing.
Good.
Yep.
Which I mean, I we'll talk more about. That's true. I won't even talk about it right now. But I can talk more about that later.
Yep.
But how it's true because like I know people have asked me. I guess once again, it's context. Like when you want to buy a gun, what are you going to use it for, and what is your plan? Like, are you gonna say this? I'm only gonna buy one gun. Period. I am not gonna buy another gun again. Then that's gonna be different versus like what's a good home defense gun, and you have other guns, right?
Right.
So if you ask me, Tyler, if I am only going to buy one gun, period. I'm going to conceal carry. I'm going to do home defense. I'm going to do this, that. I'll just say you get a compact size gun like a Glock 19 or something like that.
Yeah,
That's what I carry. That's what I
yeah,
conceal carry. That's what I can use for home defense if I wanted to. That's what I use for all of my competitions: USPSA, Wolverine 5K, and now the Zombie Invitational. So that's what I've probably, I don't know, I feel like almost 10,000 rounds to that thing already, and it runs just fine. You know,
yeah. It does require skill set.
it
Um,
does, but and that's what if you say home defense, just home defense gun, then okay, that's a whole other story.
right.
Because personally, right now, pistols aren't looking very good, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
So
unless maybe put into a chassis, which again seems like a weird option,
exactly.
and probably the old school home defense people are gonna be like, "Why would you ever do that?"
Once,
But again, it gives you an option to buy one gun
mhm,
and then get a chassis to go along with it that allows you to then eventually migrate to using the pistol with just two hands.
exactly, and you can throw that, and if you feel like it, you can put that in your truck, make that like your truck gun or whatever, like truck setup, or put it in your backpack, and something happens, like all right,
Yeah,
something happens, like now you have basically a faux PCC, you know, because you have a pistol with 4 points of contact now, or at least three. So makes it easier to use. So, but I digress now. So, oh, capacity, ammo capacity. Shotgun's number one, right?
oh, absolutely.
All
Because
six of them, or whatever it is, five plus
well, yeah,
one.
if you
Ooh, ooh.
semi-auto three gun shotgun, you can
Hey,
get
hey.
like you get 10+1 or 9+1.
And then actually, don't forget about the Aguila mini rounds.
Yeah, as
The
long as they'll cycle, because not all
yeah,
shotguns. Well,
exactly.
if it's a pump action, it should be all right. But
Yeah, exactly. I've thought about those because I know they'll work just fine with mine. But yeah, shotgun's definitely lowest on the list here. Like once again, I don't know about PCC, but it'll definitely be carbine. I mean, I can because
oh,
they I don't well it's carbine slash PCC. I don't
yeah,
know
yep,
because once again, I don't have a PCC. But I would you've got 30 rounds in a once again standard capacity. By the way, standard, not
yeah.
high capacity, standard.
But
I got
if you have a PCC, what is the de facto long? Because a lot of PCCs use Glock mags.
mm,
What's the de facto standard long Glock mag? How many does that hold, Tyler? Do you know? I know. I'm just curious if you know.
I mean, I would. What do you mean by long Glock mag? What do you mean by that?
So the really quick history lesson: the G18 is the full auto Glock. Well, they were trying to make them like as an alternative to like a PDW, like have a full
Okay,
auto Glock. Well, they created the longer Glock magazines basically to work with them. I'm not sure if that's the official
gotcha.
story, but
Okay.
that's what they're used for. Those
Oh,
Glock magazines by
20.
default hold 33 rounds.
Oh, I was actually thinking 23, but okay. So I
Yeah.
guess that is technically more than a standard AR mag then. Okay, so I
Yep.
guess I will give that to PCC then.
But
But that
you
is
can also
but once again, that is a PCC in the context of like an AR PCC.
yeah.
Because if you're talking about like a Scorpion, then that technically wouldn't be 33, right?
So then I would pull out my Magpul 35 round.
Oh, there you go. Then I can pull out my 40 round AR-15
I
mag
know, and
that
then
you gave me. Thank you, by
and
the way.
well, yes, and then you start getting into drum mags for both platforms. I have extensions for my PCCs for competition
Yeah,
that hold 40 rounds.
that's crazy.
Like honestly, I would say that they're equal.
I
In,
agree. It's
in
literally AR slash, or it's literally carbine. Right now, we're just carbine. Both carbines.
yep,
It's number one
but
for capacity.
you could also say that that same Glock magazine could also be used for your home defense pistol.
You are not putting a 33 round
Why
mag
not?
on
Think about
that.
think about how much more weight you have on there, and that you'll be able to at least help with some of
That
the recoil
that
management. Not a lot because it's hanging out the bottom, but
that is the most. I feel like that when we talk about maneuverability, that is going to be the most awkward thing to move around with.
I mean, were you planning on going prone? If not, I think it's all right. It's close to your body.
I
It's not.
don't know. No, that's just.
You could put a drum mag on your Glock if you wanted to.
I know I can put a drum mag.
Put a
I
dual
said,
drum mag
dude,
on
I
there.
saw a video of a dude that put a drum mag on his Glock, and he was shooting into water, and he shot like 2 or 3 rounds, and the whole drum mag fell in the
Oh
lake.
no! Oops, didn't see that puppy well, or it
No,
just
he
came in
did
so
not. It was
heavy.
just so heavy, and I'm like, dude, that stinks, because he dropped the whole thing down. He's like,
Hmm.
that thing was full.
Yeah. But traditionally, you're looking at between 15 and 17 rounds for most off-the-shelf pistols that a new firearms owner is going to purchase.
Yes, for a pistol, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're looking 30 rounds for basically carbine, 15-ish, 15 to 17 for a pistol, and then you're looking at what, 5 plus 1 for
Yeah,
a shotgun
for
typically.
traditional pump
For
action shotgun.
exactly for a traditional pump action, because that's typically what a newer shooter would get. That's what I got. My very first gun was a Mossberg Maverick 88 because it was cheap. It was like two. It was like $200 or $300. That's what I got. It was once again the peak of COVID, peak of riots. Everyone's buying a gun, so that's
Do you
yeah.
know why most shotguns are 5 plus 1?
I have no idea.
So a lot of states have a maximum capacity for hunting, and it
Mm,
is 5 rounds. So Michigan is 5 rounds.
of course it
Don't
is.
don't quote me on that, but it's 5 rounds no matter what you're using. So a lot of you see this with bolt guns as well too. They'll usually have, if they have an integral like magazine, it's usually limited to 5 plus 1, and then a shotgun with a tube, it's usually 5 plus 1.
Hmm.
And then same thing with, like, if you're hunting with like a 450 Bushmaster, they sell magazines specifically to hold 5 rounds.
Hmm.
That's why you see a lot of shotguns with a tube that only holds 5 rounds.
Huh. Well,
Because
that
if you have a
that makes
tube that
sense.
actually can take more than five traditional, like, what, 2 and 3/4, whatever, shotgun shells. If you have a tube that's longer than that and you're out hunting, and if you get caught like with a tube that's longer that doesn't have a stop in it, like a dowel or something like that, to stop
Hmm.
you from overloading it, you will get fined.
Really, that's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
it's crazy, and it may even be more than that. I'm not a hunter, so don't quote me on that. Look up your
Exactly.
local
I've
laws and find out the reason behind it. But
hmm
yeah,
yeah, I've never gone hunting here in the U.S., so I've no idea.
yep.
That's something I need to add to my list. I've gone cayman hunting in
But again,
Guyana, but
the capacity on a shotgun, not great.
no, it's low. And like I said, what even with those mini shells, I think you can probably add. You're not even adding that much more, so I think you can get it to what, like 7 or 8. I think I don't remember
Yeah, and I guess the question is, Tyler, why is capacity important
because
for home defense?
because well, in the past, when it came to home invasions, it usually was just one guy. But now, watching more of
Mm-hmm.
these videos from active self protection and even like the news, bad guys come in packs now. So you are dealing with multiple threats, multiple people, not just one person anymore. Which is why I know our beloved government, our beloved leaders, I say that very sarcastically, keep trying to bring down capacity when in reality now we're dealing with multiple threats of 3 to 5 people. Like I think of, there's a video I just remember, it was like this Asian lady, and there's like 3 or 4 guys that broke into her home, and she shot at all of them. I mean, I think one was taken down and the other three just ran away, which is typically what would happen if, because once again, bad guys like easy
Yep.
target, easy prey. They
Yep.
don't they want the path of least resistance. So of course, once you start actually barking and biting back, they'll run away because they're cowards. But unless they're on a mission on that, they hate you that bad, then they'll run away. But at the same time, you just got to protect yourself. There are so many people now. There are multiple threats. So that's why you need more rounds, more capacity, the better.
And
One, and also America.
that's
That's
why you
why.
need a 30 magazine clip.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, honestly, you are correct. Like, you don't know who's going to be in your house.
Hmm.
And if you think about, if you're a skilled shooter with shot placement, even with shot placement as a skilled shooter, you're still going to be under stress. And the likelihood of landing all rounds, which again, if you're accountable for every single shot that you fire,
Yes.
but is not guaranteed, right? And then even then, landing every single round is also not guaranteed to stop your target. There are stories of, like, people that were high on drugs breaking into somebody's house, getting a full magazine of
Hmm.
15 rounds of pistol dumped into them, and they're still going,
Hmm.
right? So unless you hit something vital, and even if you do hit like the heart, it's still like they still have blood in their body. It's going
Hmm.
to take a while for them to stop. So there's no guarantee to stop somebody other than, just to hit a, like, to keep going.
Exactly. Well, and that's even where our next topic of actually, yeah, it's more down the list, but we can skip down to it. Guess we can talk more about that stopping power now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good subject, and then we can go into overpenetration right after it.
Exactly. Yeah, let's
Yep,
talk about stopping power because let's think about it too. Like you mentioned, man, what's that famous quote again? Well, oh man. Well, oh, I forgot. I remember. I'm gonna butcher it. I'm not even gonna try. But it's true. Like with a pistol, like I think the stats tell us like it's like 2 out of 3 people. Actually, I think it's 3 out of 4 people survive pistol encounters. Like
that's crazy.
it's high. I think people when people think of like gunfights and gunfire and being shot by a pistol, they think that most people like everyone dies or is yeah, well yeah passes on. It's actually not. The majority of people survive it because pistols just don't. I mean, they do a good job of taking people down, but they just not as well as a rifle, especially a shotgun. Which is why, out like if you get shot by, of course, if you get shot by any of these 3 calibers, it's a bad day,
Yeah.
right? But if I get shot by a shotgun, I'm just be like, all right, I quit. I'm done. I give up, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and I
or
think
or I'm going down.
yeah, and I think that's where a shotgun can win out.
Yes.
Like, because you are shooting multiple very deadly. Because how many deer have been taken with buckshot over the years? Now that's transition
Hmm.
mostly to slug usage in shotguns, but very traditional in the past. That's why it's called buckshot after all.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're looking at typically it is sounds slightly morbid, but there's a friend that was telling me about this. Is that if you look at anything that can take down a deer, it can take down a human because they're
Yep.
roughly like the same size ish,
Hmm.
right? So again, buckshot is extremely effective. So from a stopping power perspective, like uh, you probably wouldn't use a slug, but buckshot is going to be very effective,
Oh yeah,
right? Probably the most effective round or cartridge of the different platforms on this list.
100%. Not even a
And
question.
hands down.
Hmm.
Yep,
So yeah, number one, definitely shotgun. Number two, I would say rifle carbine.
I would agree with that.
It's yeah. I mean, that's once again we spoke about it earlier. It's yes, they're a smaller projectile, but it is going so stinking fast. Like
Yep.
once again, that's what our military is using when they're out in war. They are using a rifle, a carbine, an AR-15 tip, or some type of. I don't want. They're not using AR. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
using the 5.56, 2.23.
Yep.
So
And traditionally, like you're going to be if you're using a home defense situation, you are going to be using intermediate cartridge like 5.56
yep.
or the Russian equivalent of 5.45, right? 300 blackout, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Inside your home, you're not going to be using 308.
No,
You
you
could if
could
you're
if
on
you
the
feel like
country.
it.
If you're on the country, good on you, man.
Hmm.
But you talk about over penetration. So yeah, if you're using 308, good on you. I think that'd be equal to a buckshot, right? Like, what is the other most common caliber taking out a deer? Would be a 308
Yeah.
or a
Oh
30
yeah.
out six,
Hmm.
right? But yeah, intermediate cartridges. Some people would argue that they're anemic and it takes a lot of shots to stop somebody, and they're really designed to quote unquote wound or whatever. But no, they're actually pretty good. Ballistically, there's a lot of fantastic. And I actually put this under miscellaneous. We'll talk about later. But ammunition selection. There's a lot of great ammunition selection out there
Oh yeah.
when it comes to defensive rounds for a rifle that did not necessarily exist 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And last, that kind of puts, unfortunately, our pistol calibers.
Exactly. Just
And I would almost put subsonic 308. I'm sorry, subsonic 300 blackout in that list as well too, because you have a very heavy projectile in all and like 9 millimeter, 45, 40, 10 millimeter. I mean, maybe I'd put that above the rest. I definitely put that above the rest. Even subsonic 300 blackout.
really.
Yeah, 10 millimeter is crazy, dude. That's
I
what.
mean, I know 10 millimeters crazy. That's crazy to think that a pistol cartridge you would consider a pistol cartridge better than a rifle cartridge.
If it's subsonic.
Yes, I understand that.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
once again, I don't. That is something that I have not really dived much into, so I will definitely have to defer or digress in this area because I'm just not as knowledgeable, unfortunately. All I know, I mean, but yeah, the Ranger Blackout's great. I don't want to give any spoilers for the next episode, so
I know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're both really good. damage wise, like a full power 5.56 with a 16-inch barrel is going to do, honestly, like is going to do more damage than a 300 blackout, subsonic for sure, and maybe even just regular 300 blackout.
Say
But
that again.
there's like a full power 5.56 cartridge, and
Mm-hmm.
especially a defensive round
Mm-hmm.
is going, and actually Grantham just did a whole episode on this. Is going to do wildly more damage. I don't say wildly, but do more damage than a subsonic 300 blackout, and most likely better than a traditional like supersonic 300 blackout,
I can
because
definitely
it's
get.
so
It
fast.
is, yes. I will have to do. I'm gonna have to do more research on that because I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. I'll definitely have to look more into that because I don't know.
Well, that the thing is that the reason why 300 blackout is so popular is that it
For
is
the
still,
suppressor.
yeah, it's very good with suppressor. It is superior out of a short barrel
Yeah,
rifle than
just
5.56.
CQBs. Oh yeah, no
Yeah.
question.
Yep.
I mean,
That's what its use is for, is
yes,
short barrel rifles, close quarters, military combat is what it's developed for.
yes. That is very true. I will. That's a really good point. Yep. That may no. Yeah. That definitely gives me some thinking to do. But that does make a lot of sense.
Plus, if people disagree with me, then they can argue with us on the internet, and it'll be
I know,
great.
right? Yeah, exactly. Just give us more traction, right?
That's right, dude.
Exactly. So, and then, like we said, pistol caliber is definitely at the bottom. So now, kind of jumping right back
Well,
over to, do you have something else?
okay, so this is another weird mix in this whole thing, is like it also depends on like what you're shooting it out of. So with a PCC, if you have a longer barrel, then you're
Hmm.
also looking at better ballistics than a pistol,
Of course, yeah.
right? But again, it,
But
uh,
even then, that's exactly like it's
it's
just
still a pistol
once
round.
again, it seems like like handguns have been like with the bottom of
I
everything,
know, but
except for capacity.
yep, and we haven't gotten to the next parts
I
either.
know.
So, all
I
right,
know we're
so
getting there. Well, granted, our episode of LPVO versus Red Dot was pretty much like that the whole
I know,
time.
yep.
So
All
we'll
right.
see what happens. We will see what happens.
So
So,
one thing to
mhm,
consider, and this is actually not a thing I have a lot of great information on, and I have argued this with other people. Again, I would refer to Paul Harrell on this one because he does a lot of
okay,
tests on it. But
yep,
it's over penetration.
yes.
So Tyler, explain the concept of over penetration to our audience.
I mean, over penetration is just simply that. Like, if you shoot at something, like, is it going to go right through everything into infinity and possibly hit somebody else
And beyond.
and beyond? Exactly. Thankfully, to the best of my knowledge, as of right now in 2024, I don't think there's ever been a situation where, in a home defense context, somebody made a shot and it killed somebody else in a different house or a different like apartment.
Apartment.
To the
Yeah.
best of my knowledge, I could be wrong. Maybe there is, or at least there hasn't been any that's been reported. So but over penetration is definitely something that people have to consider because, like Philip mentioned earlier, behind every bullet is a lawyer. We are accountable for every single round that we take, and that's why training is important. It's un, it's so that's why with that we want to use it's it's really hard because once again, what are bullets designed to do, Philip?
Kill.
Yes, kill and go through things to
Yeah.
penetrate. And yet
Correct.
now, because the only problem is now we have to go on the other end of trying to fight what a bullet is naturally created to do, which is to penetrate, but we don't want it to penetrate too much,
Right.
which is kind of ironic, but it makes sense at the same time too. So,
You want it, in theory, you want good shot placement, right?
yes.
In a defensive situation, and as a result, like if you do hit something and it does leave the individual's body, by then it has dumped most of its energy into the individual's body. Now, this sounds like I'm being slightly crass about this, but it's true. Like in that's what we're talking about home defense.
Mhm.
So you're talking about a situation where you have to use lethal force,
I want exactly.
but you don't want it to go like miss and then go through drywall and then go into your children's room.
Exactly, which is also why it's just really hard, especially being in America where everything's drywall, so things just go right through everything, unfortunately. And you might get lucky and hit a stud, but even then, so that's why it just really depends when it comes to the whole, and also where you are, because I think of how I've lived in homes where my bedroom was in the basement. Things were awesome. I'm not worried about over penetration at all because if for some reason I miss, I'm hitting the dirt outside.
Right.
I'm hitting. Whereas now I'm in the main level. If I do miss, I've got neighbors around me. So that's why
Right.
it's going right back to rule number four of the universal firearms laws of safety, which is know your target and what's beyond it. So that's why it's understanding like, okay, what is beyond my target? Where is the muzzle of my gun facing and what is beyond that? Which unfortunately, with that high adrenaline, you might not be thinking about that, which is why it is so important in a home defense plan to know what your plan is and know your context. Because once again, or actually we didn't talk about this, but clearing a house, especially by yourself,
Not a good idea.
not a good idea. It's a terrible thing. Tactically, it is one of the worst things you can do. But if you are a parent who needs to go get your kid, you
Yeah.
got to do it.
Yep.
Me, I'm a single guy by myself. I can literally just barricade myself in my room, call 911, and I'm good to go, and just have my home defense gun just pointed at my door. I'm good. I'm fine because I don't need to clear my house. I'm fine. So that's once again goes right back to context. So now going back to that over penetration, and really, I guess we can somewhat talk about ammo selection. I guess now we'll just talk primarily over penetration, where it's like, okay, what operating system can we use to where it will not penetrate too much? And that's where it kind of just depends on what ammo you're using, honestly. Because you have something like a shotgun where you can use like assault round where it's not going to go through a wall versus a slug that'll go through every wall.
Right. Even buckshot, like
Oh, yeah.
it'll go through drywall pretty easy.
It's basically
Obviously
just, yeah,
it's
it's a,
gonna dump it. It's gonna slow down a lot faster than a rifle round. But
yes. Hmm.
and that's again, I think why there is this like thought about using shotgun because it is like you're gonna like with buckshot, you're gonna go through
Hmm.
you go through drywall with ease. You know, and some of it may get lodged into the 2x4s in your wall, the studs in your
Yeah.
walls, and like or in the siding or whatever is your house, right? But most likely, you're just gonna rip through that like it's paper.
Oh, yeah.
But it will not go as far, it will not be as lethal at distance as a rifle round would be.
Hmm.
Um, 5.56 because it's a 22 caliber round, or 223 because it's a 22 caliber round does weird things when it goes through surfaces.
Oh, yeah. It
It's
just
unless
tumbles, man.
yeah, if you hit something, you can deviate its path. It's not overly reliable, which is why the calibers like 308 typically do better with barriers than 5.56 does. Now there are different rounds that are more barrier blind that are designed to shoot through and penetrate through walls, and penetrate to targets because of that.
Hmm.
But they're never going to perform as well as like a 308 when it comes to a barrier, right?
Hmm.
It just doesn't have enough like weight to punch through the target.
Hmm.
Um, and there's always been this misnomer too, or maybe not misnomer is probably the wrong word, but there's always this assumption that if you're using an AR-15 for home defense, that all of your shots are going to whistle right through the house, go into your neighbor, and shoot their dog,
No.
right? Again, which goes back to your point, Tyler, of like where are you shooting,
Hmm.
and that takes into consideration of like in the home defense situation, you're going to be under stress, and you're not necessarily sure where you're going to be dumping your rounds.
Hmm.
So I think I don't know. This is a tough one. I don't have enough information. Again, watch Paul Harrell, and he's got a lot of like details on this.
Oh, for sure. There's
But this
tons.
is
Yeah.
yep. This is where something like I did one of the videos I remember watching was, and he was actually the one that advocated on one of his videos for birdshot for situations where like you just can't over penetrate. You can't penetrate the walls.
Hmm.
Now, birdshot will go through, especially like really close up to a drywall, will go through the wall, but it does lose its lethality like big time as it proceeds through drywall,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, anything can be lethal with the right, shot placement, even through drywall, even if it's birdshot, but the likelihood is dropped significantly lower. So if you have a house full of people, maybe birdshot's a good option for you. Now, can you kill somebody with birdshot? Absolutely, but
Oh, of course.
it's gonna take good shot placement, but it's also gonna hurt like hell.
Oh,
So
big
either
time.
you're really gonna piss somebody off, or they're gonna be like, I don't want to get shot again, and they're gonna either run away or I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know. People are dumb. And if they're in your house, they're probably,
I
either strung
know.
out or they're being dumb anyway.
It's
So
adrenaline. Exactly. It's that adrenaline too. So now that fight or flight really kicks in. It's like, what's going to happen? Which is also why I'm surprised we didn't talk about this yet. I know there's definitely that belief of where all you need to do is rack your shotgun and that's going to scare the person to run away.
yeah, not if
That's
they're
not
high.
true.
Yeah,
That is not true. All that's going to do is hit their fight or flight. They might run away, but I don't think they will most of the time.
you
Some
know,
people,
it gets most people to run away.
hmm, getting shot at.
Well, yes, but if you do rack the shotgun and then you immediately play the doom music, then the people will be like, I am an NPC. I'm gonna die, and they'll run away.
Oh
That's
my
a
god.
deep cut there for all you Zoomers out there,
Yo, it is. It
and
very
you and
much
you and
is.
you millennials.
Uh-huh. It's definitely, yeah, because it ain't true. It doesn't work that way.
All right, all I have to say
So
though, over penetration.
I
Um,
would exactly over
yep,
penetration, it'll go right back to ammo selection, but I would probably say
and there
let's
are
just say typical. I guess a typical because I would say most people probably use a buckshot for home defense. I'd say most people. So because of that, I would making that assumption. I would say some type of pistol, a pistol caliber, shotgun, rifle.
hmm,
That's where I would put it.
I just don't know enough. I can't really comment on this again.
That's
Paul,
fair.
I know I said Paul's name a lot, but
I
check
would,
his.
yeah.
He does a ton of tests on this stuff.
That's fair. So that's just where I would put it because I think of once again home defense. You're typically gonna put some type of hollow point in there, whether it's like a HST or a Spirit Gold Dot or something, and then shotgun. You're probably going to be using a buckshot, and your AR. You're probably using some. You're most likely using some type of like home defense or like varmint round or some type of. You're not using ball ammo. If you're just doing straight up ball ammo, then yeah, rifles without a doubt the
Yeah,
worst. I guess the the worst in terms of the best at over penetrating. The worst in this category. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's
They know they make like soft tip, like which
yeah,
is used for
frangibles.
hunting like deer
Oh, those
in
two.
like.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be curious, like, what does it look like for like defensive rounds? Ah,
Yeah,
anyway,
which I mean, because I have those. Like, you have these specific hunting rounds in those ARs where, like you said, is for like sometimes they have varmint rounds or they have like coyote rounds or even deer rounds, and they're made to, of course, not over penetrate those bodies. So
yeah, you
those
want to mushroom out and dump all its energy killing the target.
exactly, which is once again the same idea of a hollow point. And of course, they have frangible rounds as well, which basically once it hits, it just disintegrates.
Right.
So I have those too because that was the first question that I had when
Hmm.
I first got an AR-15 like because I started with a it's funny because I went from a shotgun to a pistol to an AR and eventually it's kind of moved around to what it is now and how like yeah I was like what can I do so I just got frangibles and I haven't the only thing unfortunately I haven't tested it because I've made my own ballistic gel before but I didn't test the frangibles unfortunately looking back I should have so
We'll
but
have to do that. We'll have to do that again for our own science.
that's true yeah I gotta make that and also note to self make sure your refrigerator is actually working when you put your your ballistic gels in the fridge if not it'll start molding.
Yeah, nobody wants moldy gel.
No, that sucks because it was actually a lot of money to make.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I made a lot.
yeah,
Whatever. So,
yeah.
okay. Well, I mean, we kind of spoke about ammo selection already. Do you,
Well,
or
yeah.
what are your thoughts? Did you have more on ammo selection? Because
Well,
I
actually, I have that under miscellaneous category. But I think we were going to chat about handling
yes,
next.
handling. Which now we're kind of making that a difference between accuracy, ease of accuracy, and actual handling itself. I know it's very similar. Looking back, we probably could have talked about them together. So when it comes to handling, like there are just the little things that make like I think of a shotgun, you got to make sure that you're actually racking it because a lot of people when they shoot a gun, they're thinking, "Oh, it's semi-automatic.
Yep.
You're shooting." Okay. Like you have people who shoot a shotgun, they fire and they're like they try to fire, it's like, "What's going on?" It's like, "Oh, you got to rack the thing." So it's little things like that. Or when you have this new operating system or this operating system and you are new, how easy is it to use? And I think we already kind of
Right.
spoke about. I'd say just a carbine, a shotgun, a pistol. So
Yeah, and even like manipulation under stress of
Hmm.
a shotgun, like when you fire the first shot. So let's say you do have a shot shell in the chamber to begin with,
Yeah,
right? And you fire that first shot again, your brain goes to I just pull the trigger again instead
that's
of like
true.
I need to rack this thing. And then if you do realize I got to rack it, then
It might be too
your
late.
brain also has to like register the fact that you need to manipulate like the firearm to rack the actual next cartridge in there, and it's a lot.
It is. So
Whereas
actually, yeah. Now that you talk
whereas
about, yeah, that's true. I actually might put shotgun at the bottom now. That's
yep,
a good
whereas
point.
with a semi-automatic pistol, even you're just going to continue to pull the trigger until you're out of ammo, right?
Yeah.
Assuming that you have a round in the chamber, that's another difficult one too, because not everybody does keep their home defense gun with a round in the chamber. Just if they have little ones around. Michigan has a requirement now too that you have to have your stuff locked away,
Yep.
which I'm actually going to put into miscellaneous here.
That's true.
But like the other thing I thought about with handling Tyler was, let's say you do have to go find your loved ones within the house. Their bedroom is on the opposite side of the house. Or their bedroom's down the hallway, and you have to go out into the hall.
Hmm.
This is where the smaller platforms tend to shine because you're not having to deal with a lot of extra um like you're bringing everything close into you, and you're not dealing with a lot of extra like length out in front of you that can get caught up,
Hmm.
in door frames or get caught up in wall hangings or whatever. And this is where shotguns really suck typically
Oh,
because
dude. Hmm.
your most shotguns that are people are purchasing hunting shotguns, and those are going to have 20 plus inch barrels on them,
Yeah.
right? And even if you buy the shortest barrel possible without doing an SBR, legally that's 18 inches, where a barrel for a rifle is 16 inches.
Hmm.
So
Unless you get
you're
an
looking
AR
at
pistol.
right. Or you could do a shockwave, but again,
Yeah.
with shot for the shotgun,
Dude, no. That's only making things
Yep.
worse.
Or you can get a shotgun with a brace. There's all these options. But most people that are buying 20-inch plus, like 26-inch barrels on a shotgun are not great for going in, but like from one room to another. And then if you have to grab a loved one, like, and bring them down the hall, you still want to have access to your firearm. So let's say that it is a smaller child or a baby or whatever, you can still hold the child with one arm and still manipulate or have a pistol in your dominant hand,
Hmm.
or even like a lightweight carbine would be semi feasible to use as
Hmm.
well, or and
If you
PCC included in that.
and that's why we use AR. That's why we use AR pistols, right? And use a pistol brace, so
Yeah,
we
you
can.
just wrap that puppy right around your
Right,
arm. Plenty
exactly.
of time, right? You're good to go.
That's exactly why we use it. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly how it's designed.
So a lot of consideration in that, and this is where like
It's
pistols really
so
begin to shine
stupid.
again because you're looking at a very like small package that you're using to maneuver throughout your house, right?
Yeah.
If let's say that you want to bring that in, you can, because pistols don't have a stock on them, and granted there are ways that you can throw a stock over your shoulder or whatever, but like you can suck that pistol right in, push it right back out again. It's really fast to do those movements, right?
Yeah. So I would argue that it is just as easy to move around with a pistol, or at least with a, okay, with the 16-inch, probably not, but
Yeah.
definitely an 11.5-inch AR pistol. I have no issues maneuvering my house with it in
Yep.
tight corners. I actually think it's better with a AR versus a pistol. The only thing where I would definitely give to you with that maneuverability is if you have to grab somebody else and you have to manipulate with just one arm. That's where, okay, a
Right.
pistol is definitely much better at versus like an AR, because I have
Yeah.
no issues, like you said, going over the shoulder. I mean, high port if I need to, even just Sewell, you know, with a rifle or
Yeah, and there's other
AR
considerations
pistol.
too from a handling perspective.
Hmm.
Is your ammo selection does depend on the length of barrel that you're going to be working with, right?
Yep.
And again, this is why 300 blackout does shine, because it is going to be better than 9 millimeter out of a pistol or nine
Oh
millimeter out of
yeah.
a similar length PCC, just because you have more powder with a heavier bullet. Um, and the barrel lengths, are going to be like, I don't know, you have 300 blackout, what, 7 inches to 11 inches or something like that,
Hmm.
and be fairly easy to maneuver with and use within a house. But then this you say same thing too, is that like at that point, a PCC with a shorter barrel is going to be way more maneuverable than like an AR-15 5.56 with a 60-inch barrel.
Yeah.
Plus, the shorter barrel you get on 5.56, the less lethal the round is, because basically with 5.56 it's speed kills.
Yep.
Whereas with 9 millimeter, you're looking at the need. You don't have to get as quite the velocities, to kill or wound or whatever, as you do with a 5.56. So you can get away with a braced PCC or an SBR PCC that has a much shorter barrel that is a tiny little package, which is why, like, for the longest time, they would call them PDWs, personal defense weapons, and they were almost always 9 millimeter
Hmm.
because they were small and they had a decent amount of like oomph behind it. A lot of that changed because of body armor, but again, this is why the development of 300 blackout. So a lot of things to consider.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess in terms of handling and maneuvering, how would you rate it?
So I would say I would tie between a pistol and a braced 9 millimeter, like PCC.
Hmm.
And I would probably add 300 blackout up there as well too. I think it's tough if you have to carry family. Again, every situation
I know it's
is
context because I'm a single
yep,
dude, so I don't even think. I didn't even think about that. I've never thought about that.
yep. Uh, Again, 16-inch AR.
Hmm.
You can definitely clear a house with a 16-inch AR if you had to.
Our
They definitely
military
are.
does it.
Yeah, I mean they've done it with 20-inch,
Hmm.
like M16s. That's
Yep.
not great,
No, but they've done it.
but yep. So again, it's not ideal. And then the last is definitely gonna be shotgun.
Yeah, not even a question.
Yep.
So I agree with that. I would definitely put pistol first, and then, of course, putting it. I would say very close second would be kind of like that more SBR AR like PCC. Like of course because it's shorter. That's kind of the idea. But I guess if you're going to talk about like just the basic setup, I would definitely say pistol, carbine slash rifle, and then shotgun. So
Yep.
I
And
would
then and then
I
and then
agree with that.
grenade would be the best, but
Yeah, good luck with
from
that one. Oh man, and then miscellaneous. What you got for miscellaneous, Philip?
yeah. So I've got a few miscellaneous items we'll just touch on briefly here. Whenever you is it's basically the when you discharge a firearm inside, it is deafening no matter what you're shooting, unless you are shooting suppressed.
Hmm.
And even then, if you're shooting suppressed, if you're shooting supersonic ammo, it's still freaking loud.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you're shooting, again, this is a side case because not most people are going to be shooting with home defense pistol with a subsonic 300 blackout with a suppressor, right?
Hmm.
Or a subsonic like 45 with suppressor, right? Most people aren't going to be doing that,
No,
right?
especially not for an intro
Yep.
to home defense.
And this is where pistol caliber carbines or pistols tend to shine. I have accidentally shot outside, mind you, a pistol without hearing protection on. It sucked, but it was definitely not like
Yeah, it was fine.
it wasn't disorienting.
No.
Um, Whereas if you're gonna shoot a full caliber or full power rifle, intermediate rifle cartridge in your house, it is going to be extremely disorienting for both you and whoever you're shooting at.
Hmm.
Adrenaline also does weird things to your body, and it causes you to maybe have to worry about that less. But there is a story of a good friend of ours who was
Well.
shot outside their house to shoot a squirrel or some kind of varmint with a
Uh
varmint round
huh.
out of an AR-15, and his ears literally bled after that, and they were ringing for a very long. 2 weeks later, I think he said
Hmm.
it's still ringing.
Yes, because he chose to do that, and that's why. That's very true because it's very interesting because you'll talk to military or police officers who have, of course, shot pistols or even rifles indoors in like defense situations. And kind of like Phil was mentioning with the adrenaline, how it's like our bodies just know what's going on and it protects our ears to where
Well,
they
you get auditory exclusion. Yeah,
exactly auditory exclusion. They can't, it's like they couldn't even hear it.
right.
Now, physiologically, it hurts. Like later on, they'll pay for it later. At the moment, they don't even realize it. Everything's just fine. But in like once the adrenaline lays off, everything's fine, everything's calmed down, that's when they kind of get that ringing, which is why, like, in the moment, yeah, you're fine, but it's going to hurt. You're going to pay for it later with whatever you're
Yeah,
shooting with.
the biggest thing I think is like, does the report of a full caliber cartridge going off, or full caliber like rifle cartridge going off inside of your house, overcome your auditory exclusion from being like under adrenaline dump? I don't know. I've never done that before, and I like my ears, so I probably will never test it.
No, but at
But
the same,
I'm
well,
sure
but
there's
once
been some
again,
research on it.
this is with adrenaline, so you're never going to be able to recreate that without actually being
Right.
in a situation where someone's shooting at you with
Yep.
that much adrenaline.
I'm sure there's research on it. People have done after the fact, for
Exactly.
police
Yeah.
officers or home defense shootings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But all that to say, again, anything, because when you fire a firearm, you're getting the noise is generated by two major items. One of them is the ignition of the powder inside of the firearm itself,
Hmm.
right? And that's where the suppressor handles most of that, right? Because it captures that, like, you're going to get some signature out of like the ejection port, but like a lot of that is captured with the suppressor as it leaves the firearm, but you are still dealing with supersonic
Hmm.
rounds and the supersonic, like, whenever you break the sound barrier, you get that loud bang,
Oh, for sure.
right? Now, again, if you're shooting subsonics, you are not going to get that because you're not breaking the sound barrier.
Hmm.
So if you've removed one of the items that creates a lot of noise.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
So
and
what
that's
you're
not,
so
and
what you're
that's
telling me is I just need to put ear pro right next to my
well, yeah. I mean, like,
night table, side
again,
table.
if you have time to do it, and it's a situation where like I'm defending my room, and like
Well,
I
no, I'm
have,
saying like actually have it placed.
yeah, yeah, no, I know,
Like
but like,
literally right there. Just
if
if
you
it's
have time,
well,
if
I'm
you have
talking
time
about
to
just
get it,
over the years, just boop right there.
yeah, if you have time to do it, fantastic.
Hmm. Which hopefully you do. I mean, like I
Right.
said, you I don't know, but once again, now I guess we can kind of go into now the other thing that you spoke about with Michigan. Like for me, I'm fine because I don't have any minors in my home. I can put
Yeah.
my home defense gun wherever I want. It's great.
Yep. Mine goes in a locked box
Mm-hmm. Because
all the time
you have to.
because I legally have to,
Yep.
thanks to the government in Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Now, that being said, I do have kids in the house. I have teenagers, and there's always, no matter how good your kids are, there's always a concern they're going to do something dumb or their friend's going to do something dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily disagree. Now, like, would it be okay if you were to keep your firearms locked away throughout the day, and then at night, you have it in your nightstand next to your bed? And is it okay from a non-legal perspective? Probably, but we can't do that in Michigan thanks to the recent law changes.
Yeah. Well, that's even why it's just once again you have stop boxes, which is kind of cool. How it's just a quick and easy way to get access to your pistol, and I know they have like the same company, they have like this type of like chamber lock where you can put into your AR, you just quickly take it right off. Now, technically that's not going in like a case or a container, so I don't think that would count
No, it
in
will
Michigan
not.
law,
Yep.
unfortunately. But at least that's one way to protect it. I know it's funny because you have like guys like lock picking lawyer who is famous for picking locks, and he's like, "This is terrible." It's like, well, it's not really meant to
Yeah,
like
it's not.
be
Yeah.
unpickable. It's supposed to be a very quick and easy way to still lock it, but easily open it. Because once again, when you're opening it, you're under high adrenaline, so you should be able to get it out somewhat easily, but at the same time, it's still a little bit of an obstacle to open it.
Yeah, and this goes into my miscellaneous item about access that you kind of brought up with the access to the stop boxes.
Hmm.
Other things to consider as well too, in depending on whatever firearm you're using, and it's super controversial. But let's say you do have small kids and you're not in Michigan where there's like a requirement to keep it in a box.
Hmm.
Don't keep it around in the chamber. it is exceedingly difficult, and obviously you have to check it too every time you put it down and or put it into like a nightstand or
Yeah.
whatever. It is exceedingly difficult for children of a certain age to rack a pistol.
Hmm.
The slide is just too much weight to overcome,
Agreed.
right? And unfortunately, my kids are now beyond that, where they definitely can because we've gone to the range and they've shot, and we've dry fired in the house as well too. There are even some women of small stature who have difficulty racking the slide on a full size firearm, which is
Hmm.
why Smith and Wesson created their EZ line,
Exactly.
make that easier for people who just don't have that upper body strength to be able to do that. So that is
Or
a
even
single
just
deterrent.
people with arthritis, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's a deterrent for very small children, toddlers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Not saying that they can't figure it out, and it's not that
No.
it's always a
Well,
dangerous weapon.
yeah, I 100% agree. That's why I remember like Pat McNamara, that's what he does. Every time he comes home, or at least
Hmm.
this was from a video from years ago. Every time he comes home, he just takes the round out and he aircraft loads his guns are all aircraft loaded when he's at home.
Right.
He does not keep one in the chamber for that reason. And it
And
just makes more sense because, like, the end of the day, this is your castle. You shouldn't
yeah,
be in red or even yellow. You should be able to be at green at home,
right.
you know?
And I want to add too, Tyler, that because people are so like so happy right now, this is all like we're not lawyers. We're not giving you advice.
No.
I hate that to do this.
This is
This
our
feels,
opinion.
feels awkward. This is our opinion, and we're doing this episode for entertainment.
Yep.
So do that with what you will. Um, all right. So that's access. The other thing with access that you're dealing with is, let's say you do want to put it in a box because you have children around, right? And you want to be able to get quick access to it. There's a ton of solutions that allow that, like the stop box, like Tyler was talking about. If you are going to use a any kind of carbine or even pistol braced AR shotgun, if you're going to secure it, short of just putting a trigger lock on it that has a quick removal for it, you're going to have that in a safe or a locker or some kind of location of some sort that the rest of your family cannot get access to, and it is going to be it's not a nightstand. So you hear bump in the night, you have a pistol. The first thing you do is you open up the drawer of your nightstand, you pull the pistol out, you have access to that thing super fast.
Mhm.
If you're going to go for a rifle, shotgun, or PCC, you're going to have to get up out of bed, open your safe, get into your safe, pull it out of there, and then you'll have access to your firearm,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm sorry, I guess again, if you have a stop box, you pull the door open, you do the thing to get the stop box, you have the access to the pistol. Now, if you're like Tyler and you're single, or you're in a state, where you're like whatever, you just have it sitting next to your bed, you grab it. It's probably even faster than opening up.
Oh, it's super
Uh,
fast, man. It's
yep,
awesome.
yep. Shake away optic. You're ready to go.
Exactly.
Flashlight on. Let's do this.
Mhm. Yeah. But which is why I do know some guys who where their wives don't care, and that's really nice. Their safe is literally right next to them at the bed, and they can just type it in and they can open it right up.
Yep,
So, which is
yep.
nice, but that's not how most families are, unfortunately. Which I
Siri,
get.
give me my gun.
Yeah, I know, right? Or even like you've got like these like beds now, I think, where you can like it's basically like a safe or something, or even like a wall
Yeah,
mount safe
yep.
where you can
They have a little
grab like a
slide out.
gun. It's just like they're definitely the op. I mean, you can do anything with cash, so
Well, that's true.
it just. But all
Right.
that to say, I agree. Like ease of access, pistols definitely the easiest, especially for most people and most context is
Yep.
whatever
So,
context.
so we hit on this a little bit too, and I kind of want to keep moving on. But ammo selection. What are your thoughts, Tyler, on every platform? And
I mean,
this is controversial, and people are going to
really?
disagree. Yeah, yeah, 100%. People are going to disagree with you no matter what you say. And I would speak more of like
I
generalizations of
guess. I
like
mean,
hollow
for
point, not like one brand versus another. But
yeah, I mean, for a pistol slash pistol caliber carbine, definitely some type of hollow point. Personally, I'm a Federal HST 147 grain guy.
mhm,
Like that's pretty straight for me. That's pretty straightforward. Um, for a shotgun, buckshot, and then for AR-15, just some type of like basically a hunting round.
right,
That's what I would do. Like I know I could see once again. as kind of what we're talking about earlier, like sometimes maybe even a frangible round, or even instead of like a deer hunting round, maybe even downscale it to like a varmint round. So this way it might not penetrate as much. So, but I mean, once again, those things are designed to kill like coyotes or like gophers. But it's like, so obviously not human size, but definitely like that would be kind of like the equivalent of like using a bird shot versus a buckshot. But once again, for that aspect of over penetration. But personally, I would say some type of hollow point for your pistol and PCC, buckshot for your shotgun, and then a some type of like hunting round for an AR. What about you?
So this one gets a little bit weird, just because the things that I know. The knowledge that's rolling around in my head. Pistols, hollow points,
Oh,
hands
of
down.
course. Yeah,
That
no
that makes
question.
that makes ammo selection super easy. And honestly, that's another reason to a +1 on the pistol side, because it's just a really easy choice. Like, why would you use anything else? Maybe a bear round, but that seems like you're
That's
not.
excessive. You got to be like living
That's
in the like a
excessive.
cabin in the woods in Canada or
Right.
Alaska.
'Cause in Canada, you don't have rights anyway.
You
So,
know what
but
I mean.
yeah, like bear
Fine, the
round
UP,
again.
Upper
If you're worried,
Peninsula.
if you're worried about, like, two-legged and four-legged predators, um, like bear round could cover both for you, I guess. Um, PCC, I would tend to say that your hollow points are going to be your best choice. However, not all PCCs feed hollow points properly.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, so that basically the caveat on that one is to do the research before you buy a PCC, find out how well it feeds, and then find out if there's a specific type of defensive round that feeds better than others.
Hmm.
Um, like I think of the hollow point rounds that have like the polymer insets. Like sometimes those
Yeah,
can
like the
help a little
Hornadies.
bit. Yeah, so something to consider as well too. Um, so that's consideration. If you can't do either, I mean, obviously ball ammo is not great because penetration issues, but
Unless your grand thumb.
Yeah, hey, that's cool. Um, and then from a shotgun perspective, again, buckshot I think is gonna be probably the most popular home defense round. Again, birdshot is an option, and I love that this is a controversial choice. I feel like every episode has to have a controversial choice. There is also something in the shotgun world that is called candy striping,
Oh yeah.
um, where you load a birdshot first.
Hmm.
That is your first shot. If they don't retreat, you immediately load in buckshot, and now you've gone up in the lethal scale.
Yep.
Right now, you could do the same thing with like assault round or some kind of beanbag round,
Yeah.
and then up to birdshot and whatever. But like typically, your candy striping, you're either cycling lethals or you're going less lethal to lethal, and then like probably lethal from then on out. So I guess, yeah, unless you really wanted to do like a slug for your third
Yeah, I
slot, but
mean, hey, if
hey,
you are scared of bears, then yes,
yes,
put a
yep.
slug in there.
And then for a defensive round for AR, rifle round, there's a round that is specifically designed for personal protection that's called the Spear Gold Dot.
Oh, okay.
That is the one that was recommended to me. I don't own these because, no, that's for another episode. Anyway, so something to consider for that perspective. 300 blackout, I don't know much about. I know they make hollow point 300 blackouts. Like any kind of open tip match round as well is going to be a fantastic defensive round option if you don't have a spear or gold dot.
Hmm.
That was how it was always explained to me, because again, you're going to get the like the flowering, the pancaking of that round, and
Oh
you're going to
yeah.
dump that. You're going to dump in all the energy into the target.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's ammo selection. The last thing I had, Tyler, and I apologize if I'm taking over the miscellaneous stuff because I just wrote down things. Things to take in consideration that we didn't talk about at all are accessories on your home defense gun, like flashlights or lasers.
I mean,
And
I
I'm
mean
curious. I'm
every
curious. I'm curious your thoughts. Like, is this a useful item? Is it a necessity?
yeah. Oh
Is
yeah.
it is it nice to have? Like, which one do
No,
you? What
it's
do you need?
For every single operating system for home defense gun, some type of light.
Yep.
You need positive identification. I don't even care who you are. Like, well, because of that, because I care who you are, I guess that's a better way to put it. You need to be able to PID them. So you need some type of light, whether that is on your gun or a handheld, because really the only time you're going to do a handheld a would be a pistol. But everything else, you should have some type of weapon mounted light, and I would argue a weapon mounted light on your pistol too. I'm lasers. I mean, if that's up to you, you can if you want, especially if you got night vision and you can do IR stuff. Have at it. I don't think it's necessary, especially for an intro to home defense. That's not happening. Um,
I
for
I want to argue on that one for you, but go ahead.
That's fine, and that's where I personally disagree, and that's fine. If I know you like your lasers, I personally don't. And then for rifles and your PCC, a sling.
Interesting.
I know you and I disagree on that.
Yeah.
I would say a sling only because let's say I am done with I no longer need my operating system. I'm able to put it down and be able to do any administrative work. But I'm not leaving my gun aside, which is why here in this context a pistol is inferior because I would have to either do one-handed stuff or I'd have to put my pistol down to do stuff.
Right.
Unless police are there, then I definitely will put everything down.
My argument on that would be, why are you putting it down until the cops show up?
That's true. That's a good point. I mean,
I mean, unless you're dealing with, like, let's say you are dealing with an injured family member who got attacked or whatever,
I
right?
was thinking
In which case,
medical was my reasoning.
yeah, in which case, then yes, you would have a reason to put it down.
I was thinking primarily medical, but
Yep.
then I was for some reason my brain was thinking doing medical for the bad guy, but I'm like I'm not doing medical for the bad guy.
No.
Truthfully, I have no. To the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong. Once again, this is not legal advice. I do not have a duty to perform medical on a bad guy that is trying to kill me.
Right.
So, because I know I've spoken to police officers about this in the past, but this was in the context of church security to where they advise you not to perform medical on a bad guy who is assaulting a church here in Michigan at least. I don't know other states, but that is what they told me. Multiple officers have told me that. Now, in the context of home defense, I've heard from someone before that I do, but I because of but that's Good Samaritan though. Technically, Good Samaritan's more like I don't have to. I don't know. Once again, not legal advice. So
Yeah.
I guess all that to say, the big thing would be any type of medical with kids, or even just having to. Let's say the threat is down, and now I'm like calming the family. So
Right.
once again, I'm by myself. But I'm just a big fan of like I want to keep my gun on me, and plus by having a sling, if a guy's trying to fight for my rifle, at least I have a sling to kind of help retain that.
Right. So my argument, and we'll kind of start in with slings, and then I'll get back to lasers. But my argument against a sling is it's just one more thing to have to. Now you can shoot a rifle without slinging it, like with a sling on it, without having to sling the sling over your shoulders or over your head. Um, but my argument is just one more thing to get hung up on stuff in your house,
That's fair.
whether it's a dresser, your bed, another person, a child that you're carrying, a door handle. Door handles love to get caught on loops. Like,
Hmm.
it's just, they're like magnets to each other or Velcro to each other.
Yeah.
They just get stuck on things. So I would argue against it because it's just something that more to get in the way, and something more you have to deal with when you're going to fire the rifle. Something that can include. We actually saw when we were practicing for the Wolverine 5K this year. Somebody's sling got in the way of their optic. They couldn't see down the sight. Right. It's just
Really?
those split seconds. Yeah, I don't think you were there at that day. I think it was that Sunday that you were unavailable.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
I was at church.
yep. Um,
I'm a
so
pastor though, so.
yeah, so all those things is just one
Mhm,
more thing to get in the way to have to deal with. So I'm like, nah, dude. I can still hold on to my rifle with one hand.
mhm,
If I have to, or if I have to like stick it down between my, like, if I'm bending over, stick it down on my feet, below my feet, whatever, blah blah. Anyway,
mhm.
regarding lasers, that's a interesting topic. Lasers have gone out of vogue, I think, because of red dots.
Mhm.
Effectively, if you can get a good sight picture behind the pistol or rifle or whatever, red dot is going to be superior to a laser, just from like an aiming perspective. However, there are smaller firearms, especially like I think like an LCP that
Hmm.
have a integrated laser into the like
Oh
trigger guard.
yeah. Uh huh.
So it can be used as an effective aiming solution, if you don't have uh like if you don't have great like nubbins, like iron sights, like or nubbins like Brian calls them.
Yeah.
So that is a consideration. The other thing is if you do have a laser on a carbine or a PCC or even a pistol, you are not necessarily having to aim down your sights and have that like visual occlusion on what is right in front of you. You can have a little bit more of a heads up. However,
So are you
there's
keeping your laser on the whole time?
I would say so. Yeah.
But
Like
I've
if you have your light on, and some of them are like together, right? Your light and laser are together, right? So again, your argument is, do you leave the light on and make yourself a target? Do you have the light on to find out where the target, the problem is at? Do you use the light to blind? There's so many situations, and I'm
yeah.
sure there's a right answer and wrong answer to all of this.
The way that
Um,
I have learned it is you only use your light when you need to. Basically, when you're like kind of clearing the corners and like kind of like going into a new room, because by having your light and laser on, all you're doing is you are telling your enemy where you are. You're
yeah,
you're NDing. So,
yeah, if I am sitting still, I am not going to have that on.
hmm
There's no freaking way I'm going to have that on. Now, if I'm going to get my child, where they may have heard the bump in the night, and
hmm
I'm trying to clear that house, and I am already jittery as it is, I will probably have my flashlight on the entire time until I have secured my family member.
hmm
Again, maybe that's the wrong way of thinking
yeah,
about it, but I mean,
yeah.
I'm more at risk of shooting a family member than shooting an intruder at that point.
Oh, I
And
get it. No,
yeah,
I understand. And that's why like I would keep it off, but the moment I see movement, I turn it on to make sure once again I PID that person. I positively identified them. This way I don't
right.
actually shoot them. That's where once again you're having to find that balance of that tactics and oh man, what was the other one? But oh man, I wrote it down a while ago. But having to find you want to be tactical because you want to survive by the same time like you want to be safe, you want to be fast and get to your family member,
Yeah.
so I get
And
that.
let's be honest, most people are gonna forget they even have a light on their gun. Unless they are trying to go get their family member, like, "I can't see!" They're flicking on lights and
That's
stuff,
true,
and
and
you're
also
making yourself
just
visible.
yes, and it depends on how your gun is set up because I think of like my because my home defense gun that has a light like where I put my grip, the light is literally right there and I can easily ND it if I'm not careful,
Right.
so
Anyway, all I have to say, and it does require, if you're not shooting down optic or using the nubbins, it does take practice
oh yeah,
to shoot without having your head, because naturally you want to put your head behind the sight,
yep,
right? And it takes practice for that heads up. And again, your most likely case scenario for that is just somebody who's got a smaller framed
yeah.
pistol that doesn't have great sighting system
I
on it.
know. Well, that's even kind of going right back to the beauty of red dots because now red dots in general, the idea is so you're able
Yep.
to target focus instead of sight focused. That's
Right.
why that's why I find red dots are superior on a pistol, which I know Brian would. It's funny because after Brian and I, the three of us spoke about this, Brian is somehow able to target focus with iron sights.
Yeah.
I've
But that's not a beginner skill set.
no, that is something that requires so much training that I didn't even realize I was even I can't do that. And a part of it too is because Phil knows this, but most people don't. I am left eye dominant far, I am right eye dominant close. So no matter what, I pretty much always see double, except with a red dot. I see just fine with the red dot.
Yep.
It's so weird.
And again, that's why I kind of talk about
And I'm
how
a
a red,
left-handed shooter.
yeah, and that's why I talk about red dot has kind of replaced the need to have a laser on a home defense
Exactly.
pistol, because you can also, like, even if you're trying to create that sight picture behind a set of iron sights and you have a laser, then you can put the laser on the target instead of having to make sure that you have a perfect sight picture with your iron sights. But with a red dot, you put the dot on the target and you're good to go. So
hmm
that has taken the place of a laser
Oh,
on
of course, yeah.
a defense weapon. So it's either one or the other.
Yeah, I
basically.
see
I
what
don't
you're saying now.
if you have a red dot, having a laser is kind of redundant.
Yeah.
Um, but it's cool. They look cool, and looking cool is half the battle.
That is very true.
Yep. All right, man. That's all I got. You got anything else?
That's all I've got. What dad advice you got for today?
No, no. See, no, you get to go first because I think I went first last episode.
I did, but I'm the one who asked first. In other words, I'm still thinking of mine.
Okay, that's fair. So this kind of comes back to the whole like your home is a castle thing.
Yeah.
When you are also making your home a castle, guys tend to get wrapped around the axle of making things secure. And if you're married, it's definitely your wife's job to make things soft around the house. But you also have to make your home a welcoming spot for your family,
Oh yeah.
and that means like making it feel safe for your children, not only from a physical protection, but also from an emotional level. I've got a teenager right now who is like everybody's out to get her. So it is tough. And sometimes like I'll have conversations with my wife. I'm like, because usually I'm the disciplinary. I'm like, sometimes like I cannot be the disciplinary for a few days because then I feel like that's all that I do.
Mm,
Right.
hmm.
So something I need to work on personally as well as being softer, especially for my oldest. Um, but yeah, try to make a place your home a welcoming spot so that not only do they feel, it sounds very lovey-dovey and squishy mushy, but like not only do they feel safe physically, but they also feel safe emotionally.
Oh, 100%.
What's your dad advice, Tyler?
Read a book.
You already used that one.
Did I? I feel like.
Tyler, what's your actual dad advice?
um, man, I'm like, what is my dad advice? Just get enough sleep, man.
Yeah.
Actually, that is my definitely my dad advice.
Says Tyler as he keeps us up to midnight again tonight.
Yeah, I didn't get home. It's just been crazy. It's like there, of course, seasons will come where things are super busy, but it really is. Just make sure you get enough sleep, get enough rest, because that kind of goes right back to even what Phil was talking about, how you got to be safe. But in order to be aware and in order to be emotionally and physically available, you got to make sure you're rested. You got to take care of yourself. And it's so easy to, it's like that mentality. It's like that, with the airplanes with the gas, not the gas mask, the air mask. How I remember when I was younger, I disagreed, saying, "No, you should be able to. You should put the mask on other people first, then yourself." It's like, well, yes, but what if you knock out? Now you can't help anybody else. So you got to
Right.
take care
And
of
now
yourself
you're a
first.
liability. Yeah.
Exactly. Now I'm a liability because I didn't take care of myself first. So yes, like love others, like take care of others, love on them, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So
And
that's why. What's up?
I'll say, and put your mask on first on
Exactly.
an
Put your
airplane.
mask on first and read a book. See, I found the way to use that in there.
Oh my gosh.
Grow
Terrible.
yourself.
What are we growing for ourselves?
So,
Vegetables? I know. I
oh
know what
my
you meant. I know what you
goodness.
meant. All right, everybody. That is the end of our podcast. Make sure to. It's my turn to say this stuff. Last night you did it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and give us a review on the podcast. And maybe, just maybe, we will read your review on air and mispronounce your name.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Sounds great. We'll see you next week in part 2 of Home Defense.
All right. See ya.
Bye.